Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the WGSN-DB Going Solo Veterans Corner, coming to you live here from Northern Virginia. And I am your host, retired Army First Sergeant Paul Holbert. And as you know, our show is designed to highlight veterans and their families and their experiences and careers in the military and what they're doing now. And we get them from across the nation. So we're going to get into tonight's guest in just a minute, but I do want to take a moment to thank our two wonderful sponsors. First, Quest Jewelers from Merrifield, Virginia. If you're looking for that wonderful piece of jewelry for that special someone, or maybe you got an idea of how you can have something custom made to melt someone's heart, all you got to do is contact Pete and Wantain at Quest Fine Jewelers, and you'll see their information right there on the screen, and I guarantee you they can make it happen for you. I also want to thank our other sponsor, Nationwide IT Services. NIS is a service-disabled veteran-owned and 8A certified small business. CK Park and his crew, he has a wonderful team there that can help your business meet all of their business needs, whether it's training, IT, performance management, 360-degree assessments, whatever you need in your organization. His group of professionals at NIS can help you do it. So again, we want to thank our two sponsors for their wonderful support of our veterans program. So let's get into tonight's show, and I want to introduce tonight's guest. We have with us tonight Marine Sergeant William Batts, and the interesting thing is, Billy's not too far away from here. He's over in Maryland, so he's not too far away from me. Well, Billy spent 5 years in the Marines and left the Marines as a sergeant, which is no small feat considering how tough the Marines can be. Billy also has his Bachelor in Business Management and a Master of Science degree in Information Technology. And he's married and has is it 2 kids, Billy?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, has 2 kids. So he's now trying to enjoy life after the Marines with his family. So welcome to the show, Billy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on this evening. We always get a menagerie of guests on the show, from all the different services, and something I'm still trying to rectify a little bit. I'm trying to get a few more female veterans on. They're a little more hesitant to participate than us guys are, but it's always good to get someone from the Marines as well as we do the other services. And so I want to ask you, you came into the Marines fairly young, and what made you decide to join the Marines? How did you get in?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. It wasn't on my radar, so to speak. I graduated high school, and I thought I wanted to own my own automotive paint and body shop. I got a job at a local paint and body shop for a new car dealership, and they were quite busy. They had a lot of new car dealerships in the area, and they fed all their work to that one. And after doing that for a little while, I realized there was just something missing. There's something more important, that I wanted to do. And I was just sitting there one day in my apartment, and I got a phone call from a recruiter. Evidently, one of my buddy's younger brothers was dodging a recruiter at high school and gave him my number. I showed it. I thought to myself, hey, that maybe that's something. Went in there and talked to a recruiter. Next thing you know, I was joining.
So the next thing you know, that's pretty interesting that somebody else dropped a dime on you and gave a recruiter your number. I have not heard that one yet. That's pretty interesting. I've heard a lot of stories of how people got into the service, but I hadn't heard one quite like that. So what did you think when you got in? I mean, I remember when I went to basic training and my first experiences there. What did you think when you first got to boot camp?
I kind of had mixed emotions. I was young, but like a lot of service members, the majority of them, I imagine, go in right out of high school. So I had a year under my belt out in the civilian world, working multiple jobs, and things weren't going quite how I liked them. And so in a sense, there was a lot about boot camp that didn't seem that bad, but the lack of knowledge of what was next and what was truly expected of you and what it was going to entail was kind of, and I guess frightening and worrisome. Would I be able to make the cut, so to speak? And but then when it's over, you're like, well, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it always seems to be like that when you're looking at it in the rearview mirror, doesn't it?
Yeah. You look back on it and you're like, wow, this is the easiest time in the Marines was boot camp.
Yeah, because I was similar. I actually didn't go in until after I had spent 2 years in college, and then went in when I was almost 21. So I was like you. I went in, just a year or so later. And in fact, me and one of the other guys in our platoon, our nickname was the Old Men.
Yeah.
Because we were 20. So, yeah, just like you said, most of them were pretty young kids.
Mm-hmm.
You got out of – where did you go to the boot camp?
I went to boot camp at Parris Island. Okay. And went to combat training in Lejeune at North Carolina. Okay. And did some of my MOS training for aviation maintenance down in Pensacola, and did a specialized training for advanced composites in Norfolk. Oceana, Virginia, right next to Norfolk.
Okay.
And my first duty station was right back at Parris Island, right next door at Marine Corps Air Station, Beaufort, South Carolina.
Oh, yeah. So you're familiar with Cherry Point and some of those other places, right?
Yes. One great thing about being in the Marines, especially in aviation maintenance, they send you to a lot of schools, a lot of training. And I was stationed down in Beaufort the first year, might have been a hair bit more, but they sent me to Cherry Point quite often to rack up different schools, paint school, weld school. Went to a couple different weld schools, which was really great, really great. That's how I ended up getting stationed over in Okinawa.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting because we have a couple of Marines in our family. One of our boys, the younger one, spent 5 years in the Marines, and of course he was in aviation mechanics for the Marines. And then my brother-in-law was a 23-year career retired Marine, and he did the same thing. They were aviation mechanics, and they spent a lot of time at in South Carolina stationed there. So I'm not sure what it is with you guys that draws you to aviation, electronics, and mechanics. How did you end up in that?
Well, kind of another interesting story from the recruiter. I showed up at the recruiter station, and I had that sense of purpose, that dedication to to the country, to our state, I guess, to our and I thought, I want to be a police officer. I want to be a military police officer. And one of the recruiters chimed in and said, "Hey, that sounds like a great job. However, there's no crime on base. On Christmas, you're going to be at the gate guard."
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, yeah, when you say it like that, it kind of sounds a little different from what I was thinking." And the other recruiter was an aircraft mechanic. And I told him how I really enjoyed working on cars, and I work at auto body, and I really enjoyed that. I don't know, felt like something was missing. And he said, "Well, you can, help support our country and maybe do kind of auto body stuff, but on aircraft, you can, planes need to be repainted, that's what he did. He said, basically can break the airplane in 3 sections. You got the engine itself, the power plant. You got all the electronic stuff, radios and navigation and stuff. That's avionics. And then everything else is airframes. That's us. We kind of fix everything. And I said, wow, that actually sounds really interesting. And so I requested that, and Marines, for the most part, try their hardest to give you what you asked for.
Yeah.
And I guess I got lucky, and I got what I asked for.
Yeah. So you spent your entire time in the Marines in that particular field, right?
Well, pretty much. When I got to my first duty station, back in Beaufort, South Carolina, I was hard charging, a killing machine that can buck rivets all over the aircraft, and I made it in my job for about a couple of months, and I got what we call fapped out, temporary duty on base. So I had to be the base lifeguard for the first couple of months there. But other than that stint, I was pretty much an airframes mechanic, and then welder, and and that sort. But hey, it wasn't that bad. All the other guys didn't like the idea. I was watching when they asked for volunteers. I saw the senior lance corporals that hadn't quite picked up corporal yet, and I saw they all didn't want the job. They said, "Oh, that's horrible." So I didn't volunteer, but I was a junior man, so I got stuck with it. But it wasn't that bad,
You were kind of voluntold, as they say.
Yeah. But I got really tan.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Well, I know that you guys usually spend places or spend how can I say stints at certain places or out in the fleet. But you also had a chance to serve overseas in a place where my brother-in-law spent some time, and that's in Okinawa. So tell us a little bit about that. How did you like that experience?
Well, Okinawa, that one I volunteered for.
Yeah.
One of those senior lance corporals was having some difficulties at home. And, as service members, probably in every branch, you got to pick up and move to where the branch needs you. And, so we were discussing it. My staff NCO was telling us, it would be good of one of you to step up and volunteer for this. So it would, he could stay here and work on his family. So I volunteered for it, went over there. It's one of those deployments that people kind of shy away from, I guess, but got there and not too long, I kind of really fell in love with it. It was a great place, beautiful area. It's really hot, very humid. You got to drink a lot of water, but beautiful island. The people were pretty nice, had a good time there, and it was a good stepping off place to see much more of the world. While I was there, I ended up deploying with the Marine Expeditionary Unit and traveling all over the world, across the equator, got my shell back, and got down to Australia and, Philippines, Thailand, Hong Kong, got to see a lot of stuff.
Well, tell our audience what the shellback is, because some of them may not know.
Oh, when you're on a Navy vessel or ship, and you have not crossed the equator, everybody's a pollywog. And when you cross the equator, then they have a big event, and they make you design these shirts, and they kind of razz you up a little bit and make you do a bunch of silly things, kind of similar to hazing, but a good hazing, and you become a shellback when you cross the equator. So it's just a interesting. It's one of those. I'm having a difficulty with words of putting a name to it, but there's so many great little things like that in the military that nobody else gets to experience. What is it? Just a couple percent of our population joins the military, and even out of that small percentage, there's so many different little nuances or things in the military that most military members don't even get to experience. And the pollywog and shellback is one of them. I was just visiting my brother up in New York, and we went on the aircraft carrier there, and we were walking around. I was kind of trying to describe the day-to-day life as a Marine aircraft mechanic on a big Navy ship.
Yeah.
Tiny little berths, and I feel like everybody should experience it at least once. It's interesting. Now, you don't have to experience it long. It's like Groundhog's Day. You could be there for a day. You've learned everything you need to know, but
then you just keep doing it over and over again, right?
Oh yeah, that's one thing about the boat. It felt like every day just kind of seemed the same. And then you see land, and then you get excited. You're like, "Woo, land's there!"
Well, I actually, the reason why I asked you to explain the shellback is because I really enjoy military history, so I watch a lot of it, and I've seen a number of those old razzing ceremonies, I guess you could say, from World War II, and things that they filmed when ships crossed the equator and different things. So that's why I wanted to make sure the audience kind of understood. And you're right. I mean, I just saw an article not too long ago. It's only about 1.5% of the American population that serves in the military. So when you start talking about some of those experiences that we got while we were in the military that so many other people don't, and I mean some of the more unusual, not some of the crazy ones we get stuck in, but yeah, you're right. So it is kind of interesting to look at some of those and share those as we go. So what do you think? What do you think your best experience or your best time in Okinawa was?
Oh man, that's kind of hard to say. I mean, there was a lot of great things. Wow, we went fishing. One of the Marines organized a big fishing trip, and we chartered these boats. They were probably 30, 40 feet, and it took three of them to take us out. And two of the other boats, they paid a little extra money for an English speaking guide, but then we all went to the same spot, and we were catching these tuna one after another. They were a little, I guess they're different from the tuna here in the States. These things were probably like 18 inches, but they were good fish. It was a good fight. We're all having a good time. And then our captain is communicating. We're playing charades, trying to figure out what he's saying. He wants to go. And everybody's like, "No, we're having a great time. We're catching fish one after another." And I say to the guys, "Hey, if this is what he does for a living, if he's saying to leave this, imagine what we're going to." Yeah. And sure enough, we get out another hour away, and he just hands us these sections of rope with a giant hook on the end. He starts cutting the tuna up, putting a tuna on there, chunks like the size of your fist. And we start pulling up mahis, like, 4 or 5 feet long, one after another. That was great. Another one I really, really loved was I was, airframes. I was welder, and the Cobra, the Cobra helicopter pilot and one of the maintainers comes over, says, "Hey, we heard you're a great welder, and we really could use your help." I said, "Absolutely. What can I do for you?" He said, "When we take this gun system, this big ball and gun off the front of the Cobra, we've got nowhere to put it. We got a bunch of old dirty mattresses, and we just lay them on top of those. Is there any way you can make us something to hold that?" I said, "Oh yeah, absolutely." So went down there, took a bunch of measurements, came back, welded some stuff together. It wasn't quite what I wanted, some tweaking here and there, throw some wheels on it, some casters, paint it, bring it down there. They're like, "Oh, this is perfect, exactly what we were wanting," And so they were real happy. I think I might have made one or two more, and I gave them my drawings and measurements. So if somebody wanted to make them in the future, and they kind of paid me back. They came back a little bit later and said they got live fire training, which is pretty rare. And if I made them some targets, they'll take them with us. So I went and got a whole bunch of old wall lockers, and we cut them out and made targets. And then they had this island somewhere there, and they set up all these targets. They picked us up, me and a couple of my buddies, and we went out with them and We all, flew by in Hueys and shot at them with 50 cals on the side of the Huey. As aircraft mechanic, we don't do that much. Like on the boat, they have John Wayne Day, and the Marines take the Navy guys out and let them shoot guns and stuff. They call it John Wayne Day. Here I am. I'm like, I'm a Marine, but I'm an aircraft mechanic. I don't get to shoot that stuff often either. Take me.
Yeah, I tell you, there's some of those armament systems are incredible, and there was one that just, oh my gosh, I was just so impressed with when I was in the desert for Desert Storm, and those were the A-10s.
Oh yeah,
those things were just. They were lifesavers, but I tell you what, they were just so incredible to hear them when they came over firing, and to see what they did when they fired was just, it was just amazing.
Yeah. And you have to respect the fact that they've been around so long, and there's nothing that can replace that aircraft.
Yeah.
I mean,
they've tried a few times. They've talked about it, but they still haven't been able to do it. Well, I'll tell you what.
Just like the Huey and the C-130. Nothing can beat those.
Well, Billy, we're gonna take a short break here to hear a word from our sponsor. So for our audience here, stick around and we'll be right back and continue our conversation. All right, and welcome back, everyone. And you're listening to the WGSN-DB Going Solo Veterans Corner. And our guest tonight is veteran Marine Sergeant Billy Batts. And before the break, Billy was telling us a little bit about some of his experiences with his 5 years in the Marines. But Billy, I wanted to ask you, there comes a time, even me, when I got ready to retire, you get to a point where you make that decision. Yeah, it's time for me to move on. It's time for me to do something different. How did that happen for you? What was it that told you it was time to make a change?
Well, wow, that's a difficult one. I hate to say it, but I kind of struggle with that question to this day. I really didn't want to get out. And I wish I try hard to say I wished I didn't get out, because life just works out the way it works out, and I've got a great life, and I'm very happy. Yeah. However, the circumstances around me is I was in Japan for a long time. It was like 3 years straight, and I hadn't been home. No leave while I was there. And, I was really itching to get back. I put in for reenlistment, and I don't know if I wasn't following up as much or there was communication breakdowns, but ultimately my package got denied, only because I requested to go to non-destructive inspection school, which would let me x-ray the planes and find hairline cracks. Yeah. And they were so backed up, they didn't have any boat spaces. And if they couldn't guarantee me a boat space, they couldn't honor my requests. So basically my package was denied because of that, not because they didn't want me. And, it's so close to me going back home. And I hate to say it, I made a rash decision and was like, they were like, well, you can just get out. So I got out. And then once you're, back on the block, it's hard to turn around and go right back in. It wasn't until, probably 4 or 5 years later, I was like, whoa, what am I doing? I should go back in. By that time they're like, hey, we've passed you, But so it didn't play out how I saw it. And but everything works out for a reason, and I'm happy. But I miss that camaraderie and esprit de corps, and Facebook isn't helping because I see some of my junior Marines that were, privates and lance corporals, PFCs and lance corporals, and I see their retirement ceremonies were these past, last year. I had a couple of Marines retire. So, but that's how it worked out for me. But it's not like that for everybody. Like I said, a couple of my junior Marines, they just for them, they were having a good time and didn't want to see it end, so they re-enlisted. And then the next re-enlistment was, well, I made it this far, might as well keep going.
Well, I know that, and I mean, I've heard a lot of different reasons why people have moved. And, like you said, everybody has their own experience. Everybody has their own reasons. Now, you were you married while you were in the Marines, or did you get married after?
No, I was not married when I was in. Matter of fact, my wife and I dated in high school. And then she went to college. I went to Marines. We tried to make it work for a little bit. It just was too much, So we went different ways. And, I did my time in the Marines. She did her time in school. And I moved back to the town that I was living in because we bounced around a little bit, growing up. So I just went back to the same town, and she did the same. We ended up bumping into each other. I think it was like 2 years after I was back, and we tried to date slowly and all that, but it was hard not just to. We just kind of fell right back into where we were, and shortly after we got married and have kids and got a boy and a girl growing like weeds,
Yeah, they tend to do that. Yeah. So how long have you been married now?
11 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 11 years. It's been great, and raising a family. It's been tons of fun. Kids are great. Work's been pretty good.
Well, you're let's see, you're in Maryland, and I know that you continued on your aviation career after you got out of the Marines because you got an airframe license or certification, and you're working now. For a contractor for the Army? I think it is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Airframe work, or what? So, what's that like?
Oh, it's fun. It's good. I got out and I got my AMP license, used the GI Bill, and I got a job out at Aberdeen Proving Ground up here in Maryland, and I first started as a Huey crew chief. There was an active duty Army unit that had a Huey. Actually, they still had out at APG. They had two different units. One serviced the airfield itself for different needs for testing and things like that they do at Aberdeen Proving Ground. And then the other unit has a different mission that they use their Hueys for. So I was their mechanic. We would do all aspects of maintenance and also perform crew chief duties when they went out of town. It's cool. It was a great job. I really liked it. From my time in the military, I was used to going places from here from time to time, and we would go on these 2-3 day trips, once or twice a month. We get some per diem, live in a hotel, not have to make my bed. It was a lot of fun.
Wait a minute, didn't your wife do that at home, or
I don't know about that
one? Well, that's kind of interesting. I didn't realize that they used civilian crew chiefs like that. I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Actually, that unit, that entire both units there, the one that serviced the base, the Aberdeen Proving Ground, and the other the active Army unit that I was with, they actually all of them are Department of Army civilians. Okay. So they're actually federal employees. Yeah. And most of them are all retired. They did their time active duty, retired, and now they're federal employees. And then,
I guess so. At Aberdeen, I guess I can see that. Yeah.
Well, and then that job, they actually got rid of all the Hueys. They bought some LUHs, these smaller helicopters. And then when that happened, I switched over. That same unit has a fixed wing plane called a C-12. And basically our unit to there is a little odd. The contract I'm with now is the Army C-12 program, which is basically all the National Guard planes. So every state has a C-12, and they use those planes to shuttle around, whatever they need, supplies, people, anywhere from generals to, a handful of corporals or sergeants to go to training, whatever it is they need to do. And that's what I do now. We maintain those planes for them, which is still really great because I just have a couple of planes that keep after here at Aberdeen. But then every now and again, because this is the entire Army, we have sites in every state and a handful of places around the world. So I still get to go do some interesting things from time to time. We had a plane get hit by lightning in Gitmo. So I got to go to Cuba and experience that base. That was kind of fun. Korea, South Korea. I haven't gone to Germany yet. Everybody loves Germany, but I guess one day.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's good that you still get a chance to go around. I know I spent almost 9 years of my 21 years in the Army in Europe. So I kind of homesteaded there, I guess you could say, for part of my time. But, that's always part of the lure of, and I guess you could say one of the rewards of spending time in the military is, all the different places you get to go and all the different places you get to experience. So it sounds like you're still dead in the middle of it. But, keeping busy like that, and you're still around the military, so you're still serving the country in some form or fashion with the work that you're doing. But with your wife and your kids and things of that nature, I'm sure there's things that you guys like to do. So what are some of the things that Billy likes to do when he's not working?
Oh yeah, one of my I guess flaws is there's a lot of things I like to do when I'm not working. I just need to not work as much so I can do those things.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Well, right now it's summertime and I love boating. I love being out on the water. We are very fortunate here in Maryland. We have the Chesapeake Bay, and it's very big and extensive. There's I am not a biologist by any means, but I believe it's one of the biggest estuaries in the world. I'm not sure how that breaks down, but great place for boating. So we had a small runabout boat, a little 21-footer, but the Chesapeake Bay, you think like calm like a lake, but the Chesapeake Bay can be really rough. So we finally upgraded to a bigger cruiser style boat where we could spend the night. We could anchor out and spend the night, do some weekend trips. Actually, knock on wood, I hope this weekend we can travel from where we are close to Baltimore and travel across the bay and down to a place called St. Michael's, which is a very well-known boating stop. So hopefully do that. Support my wife. She's running a half marathon down there. So we're going to go cheer her on and pick her up and spend the weekend there. And I also love motorcycles. I got a pretty cool little motorcycle. It's called a dual sport. So it's basically a street legal dirt bike. So I've got I go dirt biking in the woods. I like to do a lot of trail rides. And then during the week, I have a smaller set of wheels that have street tires on it. I swap it, and then it's called a supermoto. So, and then I drive that, to and from work, and I don't go to any shipping docks and like do wheelies and jump off the docks and things like that.
You're like me. I developed a love of motorcycles when I was in high school and had my license since I was 16 and owned a number of them.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't ride anymore because my knees are too bad, and I just had one of them replaced, but knees won't let me do that anymore. But I used to love the dirt bikes, the enduro bikes, riding the trails through the woods like you're talking about. So, yeah, it's some fun times. So you guys like you spend time on the boat, and you were fishing in Okinawa. I'm assuming you get to do some fishing too with the family, or?
Yeah, we are doing some fishing. I haven't dedicated enough time to really get good at the fishing here in the Chesapeake Bay. I'm really hoping this year, or summer is ending quick, but maybe next year we can get after those striped bass in the Chesapeake Bay. But one thing we're pretty good at is crabbing. Maryland's known for crabs, and we do that a lot. I really enjoy that. We've got our legal limit of crab traps, and we go set those out, and you come pick them up with a boat. And it's not like you see on the shows in Alaska where the crabs get in there and they get stuck and they can't get out. You pull it out. That's how the commercial fishermen do it here, and the non-commercial, residential, I forget the term of it, but we have these traps that collapse down, so the crab can come and go as he pleases, and you have to get lucky and pull the rope up and close it up and bring it up, tap them out, and they're getting scarce, so it's getting harder, but we still get enough of them, and it's a lot of fun doing it. There's another method with a trout line, and you put a big long line and bait every so many inches, and you pull the line up and you just scoop them off the bait, as you go along. And we've gotten pretty good at that. And although I'm gonna stop, I like to let the crab pinch me, and so the kids are less scared. However, my father got pinched this year, and I guess he didn't wash it out real good, and it got infected, and it's not looking very good. So maybe I'm gonna stop letting the crabs pinch me, because they do break skin every now and again, especially the babies. The babies got really sharp claws, but it hurts. But I just make it look like it doesn't. Kids get a lot of oohs and ahs over it.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably not a good idea to continue that, especially with that happening. It sounds like that. From your time in the Marines, you really enjoyed what you were doing. Even with the decision you made to leave the service, you've continued your career in aviation, working for the Army now, and enjoying what you're doing. You've got a nice family, you've got kids, you're living what appears to be a successful and enjoyable life. So, that's a really good story to share with the rest of our veterans and our audience, for them to know that, there's life after that uniform. But I want to ask you before we close out the show, there's one question that I would like to ask you, and I'd just like you to share your thought with the other veterans or the audience. If there was one particular thought that you think you could share with our veterans or with our audience in general, based on your experiences, what would that be?
Well, again, that's another tough one. There's so many things that I'd like to touch on and say, but I guess one of the things that I was affected with recently is take care of yourself. Really take care of yourself, and no matter what that means for you. Everybody's different. For me, I've had a little bit of, I say a little bit, but I've had a decent amount of pains and complications from service-related illnesses.
Yeah.
And when I got out, the VA said, "Oh, those are no big deal, 0%." But they did recognize that I had those items, and I thought to myself, I'm an air winger, I don't really deserve anything. And they said 0%, and here it is. Fast forward, it's a long time later, 10, 15 years later, and these things are bugging me more and more. And I eventually went to the VA just here recently. A few months ago, past 6 months. And right off the bat, they were like, wow, yeah, if you're having pains like that, we need to reevaluate you,
Yeah.
for all of those items. And they did, and quickly realized, wow, these are, that's, you shouldn't have these pains and discomforts and things like that. And they, upped my disability and my benefits, and got me set up with doctors to be treated and everything. So
Yeah.
The VA, I would imagine, is rapidly changing for the better. So, take care of yourself. Don't say things to yourself like I did, like, you're just an air winger. I wasn't the guy running through the sand, taking shrapnel. So I shouldn't be looking into that. You should look into that. And other things like the GI Bill. I mean, a lot of the things that I have today are, greatly because of the GI Bill. They did the post 9/11 and paid for my schooling. I got degrees out of it, and they even helped me out with housing assistance money while I was there. So, I could, go to school and pay my rent and all that. And, and there's a lot of mental health things, going around nowadays. Take care of yourself. I mean, there's veterans and even people that aren't veterans that care. Don't go it alone. Like seek help, or just talk to somebody. I just randomly met a veteran the other day, and his career ended earlier than he wanted to. He was going to go the whole 20, and at 15 years, he developed some medical problems, and he was forced out. The VA's taking care of him. They thought they were going to have to do some really difficult surgeries on him, but through other doctors and things like that, they were able to find alternative treatment methods, and he was able to continue on. But unfortunately, because of the medications and things, he wasn't allowed to stay in. So, and I don't know, quickly into talking with him, we developed that bond, and, but I could tell that he was kind of hurting a little bit. So, hey, we exchanged numbers, and I'm sure we'll be friends for life,
Well, you know what? I got to tell you, that's excellent advice, having gone through all that myself as I got older. So I want to thank you for that, for sharing that with the audience, because that is excellent advice. Very good advice.
Thank you.
Billy, I want to thank you for spending the time on the show tonight and coming on to share your experiences with us. And, I wish you guys the best as you continue on.
Thank you very much. It was great being here.
Well, thank you, sir. And for the rest of our audience out there, you've been listening. As you know, one of the things that we like to do is put out information that will help veterans and their families, just like Billy did, encouraging you to go out and get help when you need help with the VA. One of the messages that just came out, you see it up there on the screen. The USPS is hiring approximately 100,000 people under a new initiative, and they've got a special program for veterans and their spouses where they get preference for hiring. So you'll see the website right up there on the screen. For those of you that are interested, if you go to the VA website, you will also find this program and this information. So I encourage you to do so. Again, we want to thank our guest tonight, Marine veteran Billy Batts, and thank him for coming on and sharing his experiences. For the rest of you veterans out there, we also want to say thank you to you for your service and for your families who served with you. And we also want to encourage you to come back. You've been listening to the WGSN-DB Going Solo Veterans Corner, and we hope that you are out there living your best life. And thank you, and we hope to see you on the next show.